So my name's Angela Coppolis and I'm the loans coordinator here. I've only been with the organisation for just over a year. So the sort of whole organisation is sort of new to me, but it's been a great learning curve and it's been a fantastic opportunity and experience so far. So it's been a real great sort of journey up until now, and there's been lots of changes which I'll talk about in a little while, just because we are going under a big service model review, and when we take you around for a bit of a tour, you'll notice that a lot of our entries and things are sort of boarded up because we are going under a major refurbishment at the moment. So we started last year, and the completion date is not until 2017. So a lot of our students, from sort of having a really big library space over 3 buildings, are now all sort of squashed into the one. So that's been a challenge. So and it's been an interesting sort of journey as well. We have the same amount of spaces for study and computers, but it's all sort of compacted into the one sort of floor, so which has been interesting. But just to give you a bit of background, and I'll just go to our PowerPoint, not PowerPoint, sorry, our website. I just want to show you, and I'm starting with this is because this is a pretty big major project at RMIT. So we've got some building works called the New Academic Street. So eventually we will have a really beautiful library over the two floors of over 3 buildings, and it will be very student-centric. We've had a new Vice-Chancellor who has really pushed the student-centric focus on the university. So it's all about making the student journey simple, less complicated, and all very, jointed from the moment they enrol to their library experience to their obviously contact with their lecturers. So just to give you a bit of an overview, and this is all on our webpage, so there's no so you can go and have a look at this as well. But just to give you an idea of some of our vision and sort of give you some of our library spaces. So this is what our proposed
You had to fly through there at some point, didn't you?
Yeah, we had a video that maybe I'll see if that will give us something. I don't want you to hear this, it's more just a quick. But what they're doing is really transforming the whole library space. So this is what they're sort of saying that RMIT is going to look like. And that's not a very great video. I can't make it bigger, unfortunately.
We'll link to it.
Yeah, so you can actually listen to it, and what I'll do at the end is I'll give you my business card, so if you do have any questions, you can feel free to sort of send those through to me, because I might not be able to answer some of your questions today, but I'm certainly happy to communicate with you all and answer some of those questions if you have. So that's what it's. So it is, they've just sort of done a temporary version of the RMIT Connect, which is all our hub and student services, and we're obviously in the process. So this is kind of a bit of an overview of what it's going to look like. We've just had opened 330 student spaces over 3 levels, so that's a really great space, and I'll see if I can find you some pictures of that. And it's just been, the students are really loving it because it's all colour and it's all very student focused, so it's a lot of spaces for students. I might just leave. So there you go. We're going to have 2 more thousand spaces. So
2,000 spaces. Yeah. So what do you call a space? Is that like a desk or a seat?
Desk space, study space. It could be a computer space. It's just it could be there's going to be some pods and things that they can sort of manipulate around and make into little group study areas or little pods, that type of thing.
So 2,000 spaces in the that's a lot of space to manage.
I just want to see if I can sort of find some pictures.
On a busy day here at RMIT, how many people do you think come through the library? While Angela's looking at that. I know the answer to it, it's alright. I know because someone told me last year on tour. How many people do you reckon come through the library on a busy day? 10,000 10,000 visitors.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Through-
I've got that soon.
Yeah, through the library on a busy day. So you can imagine that that's an awful lot of people to be coming through those front doors to service, to manage, to look after.
Well, I guess from the year we had about 54,000 people up until the end of March. Not end of March, end of February. So
And that's the quiet time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the whole sort of year, but it does get really busy. Being a Friday, it's a little bit quieter, but it does get quite busy. And when we take you for a tour, I'll show you our new service model, and that's actually increased our kind of face-to-face with students as well, because it's just been a pretty new initiative that we've had here at Swanson. Most of our other campuses, they already have like an integrated service. We haven't. This has been something new for us, so we've just gone to, it's not integrated services yet. What we're calling it is a combined service, but I'll just explain that a little bit more.
Because you used to have a traditional loans
Yeah,
desk
yeah,
on
we
one
did.
side of the building, information desk on the other side of the building.
I'm just going to show you if I can, just a quick thing, and I'm not going to go on. So that's sort of something in the library. It doesn't give you a bigger picture, but they've got some individual pods. They're looking quite Star Trek-y there. But so have a feel on the. It's on our RMIT webpage. So feel free to go through that and have a bit of a look. But we'll just stop with the RMIT. And just as Margie was saying, is we did have a traditional library service. So when I started here in late 2014, we had, where it sort of says service inquiries, that's where our loan staff were, and that was where our loan service was. And then on the other side of the room, and when it makes more sense as we walk around the room, we had reference. So there was two distinct services, very traditional. One did loans, one did reference, and we'd be sort of referring people across the other side for any reference type queries. As we kind of moved on in 2015, we sort of went to the reference service, and we co-located. So we still had a distinct service, we still had the loans and the reference, but we sort of sat side by side. And we had very basic sort of, like for example, we had to try train our reference staff a little bit in loans type functions, but it was a fairly slow process, and it wasn't, we still had that two defined service. Then in late 2015, so that was where we turned into a reserve, don't worry about that. Then we went to a triangular desk. So this is kind of in line with the rest of the university. Our RMIT Connect people already have these triangles, and it's really just to kind of make customer service a lot easier, and it's a side-by-side service, so it's not over the counter kind of stuff where you kind of, you know, someone's the authority figure and someone's sort of the student type thing. It's side-by-side, it makes things a lot easier. We've only been in operation and we've tested it pretty much from December last year. So back then it was really quiet, we didn't really know what to expect. We've had to go through a lot of transition, and that means basically from having two different sort of desk services with a lot of shelving space, a lot of access to other staff, that kind of thing. And then we had the triangle, and as you notice, there's not a lot of storage there. And since that photo was taken, we've actually got rid of the drawers because that was sort of impacting on our sort of OH&S some issues that we were having. So really we had to kind of go, okay, what do we need to take over from our different services that's going to make the service work as a combined or sort of service. So there's a lot of work into it to kind of go to this minimalistic sort of triangle, and we've also had to have sort of a adjustable height sort of section as well for various staff for heights. So it's been an interesting kind of transition, and we're just getting to it now. We're still kind of changing things. We have a steering committee that gets together regularly to kind of talk about the desk and how things are going, and also to sort of look at things that might not be working. For example, queue management, like how do we manage that when there's a triangle desk and someone's got their backs to sort of the student. More sort of impact, more kind of, I guess, more sort of a focus on sort of mobile service to pick up all our students. So it's sort of going to them, not just sort of waiting for students to come to us. So we're finding that at the moment, because it's the start of the semester, we've got about 5 people out on the floor. might look like it's a bit of a overkill today, but generally it's very busy and we're all sort of busy. So what we have at the moment, our staffing model at the moment is we've got 2 reference staff. One's a roving reference. We've got a loans person there, plus a roving loans person, and then we've got one of our attendants who's part of our print, scan and copy service. Last year we identified that was a need, that we were getting a lot of transactions about printing, so we ended up having the attendants come out onto the floor. That's a new role for them, but that's been probably one of our successful kind of initiatives that we've done. So the attendants come out and are rostered from 11 to 4, and they sort of take over all the print, photocopying, scanning type problems.
So it's very much about having the staff out there, in amongst the clients, in amongst the students, not behind a desk.
No, we've totally gone away from that, and that's kind of the whole
spotting the problems before the students even know that
that's
they
right.
have a
So,
problem.
if you sort of see students sort of queuing up at a 15-minute express PC, the staff there to kind of say, look, are you looking for a PC? Rather than waiting for students to kind of go up and say, look, I'm having, I can't find a PC, what can I do? So staff are there, they jump on the students in a way
Yep.
that sort of assist them. But feel free to sort of ask questions, interrupt me as I'm talking, because I know I can
Just
ramble
speaking of
on for.
staff,
Yes.
how many staff work in the library in total, and how many library technicians in total?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know about the library technicians, but currently at Swanson there's about 45 of us, and it's equally sort of there's about 15 in the reference team, about 15 loan staff, and about maybe a bit less now with attendance, about maybe 10 attendants. But we've got about 45 to 50 staff just at Swanson. Across the organisation, there's probably over 200 staff. And just so I'm going there, just to give you a bit of background on that, which is sort of started about Swanson focused. We do have the 5 campuses, so we have a campus at Carlton, Brunswick, and Bundoora and Bundoora East. So we've got, and obviously Swanson. So there's an additional campuses.
So there's libraries at the other campuses as well? So a total of 200 staff across all campuses?
It's probably a bit more than that,
Yeah.
if you take into library administration and stuff like that too, but yeah.
And as you can imagine, those campuses are fairly widely spread. Carlton Library is quite close to us here, but the Bundoora campuses are quite some distance away. So sharing, and you would have staff that go between the campuses, wouldn't you?
We do.
Yeah.
We do have, for example, our liaison librarians are all sort of housed at Carlton, and there's a couple sort of in Bundoora. So, for example, if they're seeing students, they'll quite easily make their appointments over at Swanson, so they can come over and meet with students face to face. So it sort of works out, and we also have a push for staff to work at other sites. So, we'll get Bundoora staff coming over for the day, or we allow staff to kind of do what we call cross-unit experiences. So they might be interested in working at Brunswick, or they might be interested in having a bit of a look about sort of working with our digitisation project. So they might kind of say, can I go out to Bundoora and work on a project? And we go through a process where we sort of allow staff to go over to Bundoora for a day a week or half a day or whatever it is, and they work on certain projects on top of their regular tasks. So we do all that as well. We're actually going to a new model at the moment. We're going to push to have this one library, even though we are the one library, one university. As May was saying, we do try and encourage staff to work at other sites, but we're going to have a bigger push on that probably from this year onwards, and have people actually do desk shifts and swap shifts around. So we might kind of swap over with Carlton. So we'll have someone from Carlton come over here, and then we'll send someone over to Carlton. The other 2 branches are a little bit different and a bit more difficult just because of logistics, but we are looking at ways to do things like that as well. So we might have someone from Bundoora work here for the day and send someone from Swanson over at Bundoora and work there. So we're trying to make sure that we all get a bit of a familiarity with all our campuses, because it's quite easy for staff to kind of get a little bit sort of complacent and a bit sort of like really familiar with your own sort of site, and then all of a sudden you go over to work there and it's like, oh, I don't know where the toilets are, I don't know how to evacuate the building, and that kind of thing. So we're going to try and get all our staff to sort of be familiar with those, and actually visit the library and know where those things are, rather than just kind of reading about it online or reading a procedure or policy. So that will be quite exciting. I think most people are really looking forward to that. So that will be quite a new thing for us. Any other questions that I'm not covering? I can talk a bit, so.
You've done well.
No, good question. How about I take you for a bit of a tour, and as I'm going, I'll talk to you a bit more. So, and you'll see our desk quite sort of how small it is, or how we've had to manage to have, get rid of things and make sure that things are all kind of working smoothly. And we've got our basic things that we need at the desk. So, and staff are kind of, and the transition that staff had to make from that traditional sort of service to moving out from that. Oh, thank you.
It's really interesting that you're going through this period of transition at the moment while you're having all these renovations and buildings, because this is a really recurrent situation for almost every library, that you'll have this ongoing moving around of buildings and disruption to service. And one of the problems that you have is that you have to disrupt the service in order to build something new. And in some cases like yours, it can take years to do that. Those of you who have been studying at VU for quite some time might remember that the beautiful library that we have at Nicholson Street took nearly 2 years to build. And so during that time, there was a temporary library down at the back of the Beanland building. Much smaller, almost no space, for a couple of years until we could move into the beautiful new library. Over at our Footscray Park campus, it took a couple of years because the library, like here at RMIT, was on several different floors, and there was major construction works. And so to renovate a huge space like this, big job.
It is a big job. I mean, I have to say we're quite proud of the fact that we can actually still pretty much have a full service, except for the fact that we had nearly 300,000 in our physical collection, which we've had to move nearly 7/8 of it off campus. So we've actually got in a storing facility out in Bandura. So we've got about 60 to 70,000 here of physical collection, and the rest of it has to be requested, and then we kind of get couriers and stuff and they bring it over. So we can still offer that service, and we sort of have a 24-hour turnaround. So it's been really great that we can still do that. With all the things that are happening around the place, we've been.
And it has an impact on the staff as well, because you've lost 2/3 of your space here. What's happened is a lot of the staff have had to move out of this building, and they've actually moved to the Bandura campus. So I think you moved about 50 staff.
50 staff have moved
over to Bandura for forever. Like, that's a permanent move.
That's a permanent move.
Yeah, so they were working here in the city. Now their jobs are located over at Bandura. And, as you can imagine, that's a really big move for people as well. You can imagine if you're working in one suburb and then your job's relocated to a completely different suburb, that has a big impact on
that's
you
been
as well.
a huge impact. I mean, this library used to have a lot of staff offices, and obviously, as Margie said, 50 staff had to move. And even the rest of us, like, I used to have an office in this building. There was loan staff and reference in this building. We've actually moved out of this building. We're into the sort of adjoining building. So there's virtually the only staff that are here in the library are the 4 or 5 people that are rostered. The rest of the time, everyone else has got an office space in another building. And we've actually gone to that was have slowly changed over the last couple of years, that we also have now an open plan office. So all 45 of us actually live in the same office. So we've got now, reference, attendant and loan staff all in the one office. So, and that's been it was a difficult transition to a point where it was kind of exciting, and as well as sort of a bit of a change resistance to, oh my God, how are we all going to live under the one roof? We're all doing different things. We're all very different. But a year on, we've done really well. We're all sort of kind of probably communicating a lot better. We're kind of allowing each other to know what's happening. We're able to sort of go over and help out with reference sort of projects. They're kind of, oh, can you help with this project? And it's been really great from the loan side of things. It's been great. And the attendants are also kind of getting other responsibilities as well. And that's been sort of a positive sort of impact on them. So,
and that continual change process will happen too, in that people will have new tasks to take on and new knowledge they'll have to acquire and so on, and you know that'll happen all the time
Constantly.
throughout their careers.
Constantly, and RMIT is great in that way that they do support staff in doing other things and experiencing other sort of staff development opportunities. So they really encourage that. So it's been great that staff that are doing loans can kind of go into doing some stuff with copyright or digi. We're actually trying to get some of our loan staff now, they're doing cross-unit experiences with reference. So then that kind of gives them a few more skills that they're able to then kind of start to assist with sort of the reference kind of queries rather than just dependent on the reference staff. So it's a constant change, but it's been a positive change. I mean, it's also a bit challenging
No
for
one
other
likes
staff.
change.
No, that's
Change
right.
is
It's been
always
hard
hard.
for
Yep.
a lot of staff because it's kind of, oh, but you know, I was happy in my little three-person
I liked my
office.
desk.
Yeah, I
I
liked
liked
my
my
desk.
yeah.
I had a window, I didn't have a window, now it's all sort of thing, but it's been great. I mean, most people have done really well with taking on those changes, so it's been really good. Not saying that there's no problems, but you know, things work out, yes.
Just to recap,